imagine ending a perfectly good third date by sliding your credit score across the table.
Oh, boy.
Right? Like in 1995, that would basically guarantee you were going home alone and probably getting blocked on AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But in 2026, it might just be the most profoundly romantic thing you can actually do.
It completely shatters our traditional definition of romance, doesn't it? I mean, we are so conditioned to think of romance as like mystery and spontaneity.
Right, the fairy tale stuff.
Exactly. But when you look at how people are actually building lasting partnerships today, the mystery of hidden debt or misaligned life goals, that is the ultimate mood killer. People are just aggressively front-loading the reality checks now.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We are doing a deep dive into the new rules of engagement, this fascinating guide on custom-built relationship milestones etiquette for 2026.
It's a really necessary shift.
It really is. Like, if you are sitting there listening to this and feeling completely paralyzed because your friends are constantly posting, engagement rings on social media, and you're just trying to figure out how to communicate your need for personal space without causing a massive breakup, you need to hear this.
Yeah.
Our mission today is to completely cut through that noise. We are throwing out the outdated, rigid expectations and looking at how couples are actually drawing their own maps to a meaningful connection.
And what makes the source so compelling to me is the underlying psychology of it all. We are witnessing this mass migration away from what I call performative milestones.
Performative milestones, I like that.
Yeah, because for decades, couples were unwittingly optimizing their relationships for the spectators.
Yeah.
The parents, the friends, the social media followers.
It's not a good show.
Right. The milestones were public events. But now the energy is being redirected entirely inward. People are optimizing for the participants themselves. They're prioritizing emotional safety and intentional partnership over, getting a bunch of likes online.
Well, before we can really grasp how radical this inward shift is, we have to look at the machinery it's replacing.
The old way of doing things.
Exactly. Let's talk about the traditional relationship conveyor belt. Because for generations, the timeline was basically a mass-produced train schedule.
Oh, totally.
You depart the station at the first date. You pass through the meeting the parents junction at like month 3.
Right.
And the conductor punches your ticket at every single mandatory stop, engagement, marriage, the 30-year mortgage, children, all perfectly on time.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes obvious why that machinery is breaking down now. That old train schedule was built for an economy and a culture that simply does not exist anymore. You cannot overlay a 1950s template onto a 2026 reality. I mean, we are dealing with couples where both partners might be navigating remote work across different time zones.
Oh, yeah, or complex career pivots.
Exactly. Shifting economic realities and this hyper-connected digital world that just constantly attacks our attention. So people are factoring in deep compatibility and mental wellness over these arbitrary age deadlines.
It makes me think of sitting down at a very rigid, old-school restaurant, like with a prepackaged, prefix menu.
Okay, yeah.
Where everyone who sits down
Yeah.
is forced to eat the exact same 6 courses in the exact same order.
Mm-hmm.
And if you aren't hungry for the buy a suburban house course yet, it doesn't matter.
They bring it out anyway.
The waiter shoves it onto your table anyway. And what happens when you force someone to eat a heavy meal they aren't ready for?
They get sick.
They get sick, they grow resentful.
Mm-hmm.
Modern couples are finally realizing they can just order a la carte. They're looking at the vast menu of life experiences and only choosing the dishes that actually nourish their specific relationship in that moment.
That's a great way to look at it.
So, okay, let's unpack this. How does tossing out that prefix menu actually benefit couples in practice?
The psychological relief of tossing that out is just massive. When you remove that heavy external expectation, especially the pressure fueled by social media, you eliminate the magnifying glass pressure that breeds resentment.
Oh, that competitive energy.
Yes. Think about the friction caused when one person feels they're behind schedule on that conveyor belt. It creates this frantic, panicked energy where decisions are made out of fear rather than intention.
Like getting married just because your high school friend posted a wedding album.
Exactly. Removing the menu allows a foundation of authenticity to form. You make a commitment because you are emotionally ready for it, not to keep up with the Joneses online.
Performance versus authenticity. I love that. But if we are ditching the menu and getting off the conveyor belt, we definitely need a new way to navigate.
We need a new map.
Right. We have to identify what the new landmarks actually look like in this off-roading adventure. Let's dive into these new custom milestones because they represent a fundamentally different way of measuring the depth of a connection.
They really do, because they measure internal infrastructure rather than external validation. Take emotional exclusivity, which the source material highlights as becoming a massive primary milestone.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one.
And this happens long before any official labels are applied. I mean, before anyone updates a status or starts using the term partner, couples are hitting this distinct milestone of prioritizing honest vulnerability with each other.
So it's about establishing the emotional safety net before you ever step out onto the public tightrope.
Precisely. It flips the historical model completely upside down.
Because in the past, the label came first.
Right. You declared yourselves boyfriend and girlfriend, and then you just sort of crossed your fingers and hoped the emotional exclusivity and trust would eventually catch up.
Yeah, which is kind of wild when you think about it.
It is. Today, the logic is reversed. Couples are testing the waters of transparency and shared emotional support privately first. They are proving to each other that they can handle each other's complex feelings before they worry about what to call the arrangement to the rest of the world.
I really love the intentionality there. And that concept of a safe testing ground transitions perfectly into another major new landmark from the guide, which is meeting inner circles.
Yes.
Notice the phrasing there. It's not meeting the parents. Instead of jumping straight to a formal, high-stakes family dinner where, everyone is judging your posture and your career prospects.
Which is terrifying.
Completely terrifying.
Yeah.
Couples are gradually integrating partners into their chosen family or close friends first.
It serves as a vital emotional buffer because biological family introductions often come loaded with decades of historical baggage, unspoken expectations, and just intense pressure.
So much pressure.
But your inner circle, your close friends or trusted support systems, that offers a much safer ecosystem. It allows you to observe how this new person integrates into your actual day-to-day life without the heavy, judgmental overlay of tradition.
Okay, here is a milestone that really highlights how different the modern landscape is. Digital relationship boundaries.
Oh, this is a fascinating one.
Right. We aren't just talking about sharing a Netflix password anymore. Couples are actually sitting down to explicitly negotiate social media privacy, posting boundaries, and phone transparency.
Yeah, it's essential now.
In an attention economy where every single app is engineered to make you broadcast your life,
Yeah.
actively choosing to keep elements of your relationship private feels like an act of rebellion.
It is an act of rebellion and an incredibly necessary one. I mean, we live in an era where the lines between public and private are virtually non-existent.
Right.
When a couple proactively establishes a digital boundary, when they decide, hey, this specific part of our life is just for us, they are essentially building an invisible fortress around the relationship.
Oh, an invisible fortress.
Yeah, it changes the entire psychological dynamic from me versus you to us versus the audience. It prevents the inevitable misunderstandings that happen when, say, one person treats social media like a diary and the other treats it like a locked vault.
So we have emotional exclusivity, inner circles, and digital fortresses. I am entirely on board with all of that.
Okay.
But I have to play devil's advocate on this next milestone. Financial compatibility conversations.
Yes. The money talk.
The idea that couples are normalizing early, explicit discussions about debt, spending habits, and long-term savings. On paper, I get it. But in practice,
You think it kills the romance?
well, yeah. Bringing up your student loans and 401k contributions over Thursday night appetizers sounds like turning a date into a forensic tax audit.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't that clinical approach just completely murder the mood?
What's fascinating here is that it only murders the mood if your definition of romance is restricted to fairy tales.
Okay, fair point.
Think about the mechanics of long-term stress.
Yeah.
What actually destroys relationships? It's not a lack of candlelight or spontaneous trips.
Right, it's usually money.
Exactly. It's the slow-burning toxic stress of financial misalignment. Financial infidelity, like discovering hidden credit card debt 3 years into a marriage, feels like a profound betrayal because it threatens your basic survival and security.
Wow, that's a really stark way to put it.
Yeah.
You are basically saying that dodging the awkward conversation now is just planting a landmine for your future self to step on.
That is exactly it. When you introduce transparency early on, even if it feels a little clinical in the moment,
Yep.
you're actively dismantling those landmines.
You're taking the power away from the secret.
You are proving to your partner that you are mature enough to handle reality. Building a shared financial strategy creates this deep, unshakable stability. And when that underlying anxiety about money is removed, true, sustainable romance actually has the bandwidth to thrive.
So the transparency is the romance. because transparency equals safety. Okay, that makes sense. But recognizing that a financial audit is a milestone doesn't mean you automatically know how to execute it.
No, definitely not.
Like, you can't just slap a W-2 on the table and demand your partner's credit score. There is a finesse required here, which brings us to the etiquette of this new era. How do couples actually navigate these conversations without triggering massive defensive reactions?
Etiquette is basically the lubrication for these very complex gears. The foundational rule here is radical clarity around expectations. You can never assume that your partner shares your internal timeline or even your definition of commitment.
Right, because if the prepackaged menu is gone, you can't assume they even want the same meal.
Exactly.
You actually have to vocalize, I'm looking for someone to build a home with, or I am just looking for someone to travel with.
And vocalizing that requires the second major rule of modern etiquette, which is respecting individual timing, because every person's internal ecosystem develops at a totally different pace.
Yeah, that's so true.
You have to actively honor things like a partner's intense career sprint or their need to prioritize trauma therapy, pressuring someone to move in together just because your lease is up, or pushing them to make the relationship public before they feel emotionally secure, deeply damages that trust we were just talking about building.
It goes back to the social media pressure, too. Respecting timing often means valuing the offline connection over the public announcement.
Completely.
But, part of this modern etiquette that I find truly brilliant is the emphasis on celebrating micro wins.
Oh, yes. The micro wins are the actual building blocks of a lasting partnership.
They really are. We are talking about moments that carry massive emotional weight, but would never make it onto a traditional Hallmark card.
Like what?
Well, the source gives examples like successfully navigating your first major fight without anyone raising their voice or walking out, or surviving a deeply stressful life event like a family illness as a united front, or even something as modern as completing a 6-week couples therapy module together.
Those are the crucibles where the bond is actually forged.
It makes me think of playing a co-op video game.
Oh, I love a good gaming analogy.
Right. When you play a game with a friend, you don't celebrate just because the console has been turned on for 6 months. You celebrate because you communicated, you shared resources, and you finally defeated a ridiculously difficult boss level together.
Exactly.
That is what these micro wins are. Navigating a financial crisis or setting a boundary with toxic in-laws, those are boss levels. Beating them together proves you can actually play the game of life as a team. That builds infinitely more trust than just hitting an arbitrary 1-year anniversary on a calendar.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism of shared struggle. You are celebrating the teamwork, not just the passive passage of time.
Yeah.
And patience in those grueling boss-level moments is the ultimate metric of emotional maturity. Healthy relationships are ecosystems of continuous adjustment. You don't just beat one boss and the game is over. The challenges constantly evolve.
It's an ongoing campaign.
Exactly. And keeping these victories private, practicing that selective sharing, keeps the intimacy insulated from outside judgment.
It keeps the magic in the room with just the two of you.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a second.
Okay.
This freedom to build your own roadmap and define your own boss battles is super empowering. But freedom without a map is just an invitation to drive your car off a cliff.
Yes, it is.
Building a custom relationship from scratch requires a terrifying amount of intentionality.
It does. And when that intentionality slips, couples fall into some very predictable traps. If we are handing people a blank map, we really have to point out where the sinkholes are.
Let's break down those pitfalls because this is where the custom timeline usually implodes. The first massive mistake mentioned is comparison.
Yep, the thief of joy.
We touched on this with performative milestones,
Yeah.
but when you are trying to build something bespoke, looking at someone else's mass-produced timeline is completely lethal.
Oh, absolutely.
If your best friends are throwing a massive engagement party and you and your partner are celebrating that you finally figured out how to communicate about your respective sleep schedules, neither is less valid.
The moment you start looking over your shoulder to see how fast the couple in the next lane is running, you just trip over your own feet. You stop listening to your partner's actual needs and you start responding to your own manufactured insecurities.
Yeah, that is so dangerous. The second pitfall is ignoring emotional boundaries. Like, if you are eager to hit that new milestone of emotional exclusivity, you might be tempted to force vulnerability.
Right, which you can't do.
You cannot pry someone open.
Yeah.
You can't demand they share their deepest traumas on week 2 just because you want to feel close.
No, pushing for premature vulnerability usually results in a defensive withdrawal. You really have to let the safety net weave itself at a natural pace.
And the third major trap, and I think this is a huge one, is rushing major commitments without evaluating the decidedly unsexy stuff.
The logistics.
Yes, I am talking about conflict resolution skills and long-term logistical compatibility. You cannot skip straight to the fun parts of buying a dog and moving to the suburbs if you haven't tested how you argue.
And this is exactly why the traditional conveyor belt was so dangerous. It actively encouraged rushing.
It did.
The societal script just said, you are 30, you've been dating for 2 years, you should be getting married. It completely ignored whether or not those two people actually knew how to de-escalate a conflict.
It's like building a gorgeous multi-million-dollar house on top of a sinkhole. It looks great for the photos, but the first time a storm hits, the whole thing collapses because there's literally no foundation.
Exactly.
So for you listening right now, what does this all mean for you? How do you actually apply this? How do you sit down tonight and start drawing a map that avoids these sinkholes?
Well, it begins with a very deliberate, often challenging conversation about core values. You cannot map a destination if you don't know what direction your compass points. Couples have to explicitly identify what matters most to their shared life.
Okay, let's look at a hypothetical couple. Say partner A has a core value of extreme stability and security, while partner B has a core value of spontaneous adventure and freedom.
A classic pairing.
Right. On the old conveyor belt, those values would just clash until someone compromised and grew resentful.
Yeah,
But with a custom map, they have to synthesize those values.
exactly. They have to find the intersection. So instead of defaulting to a 30-year mortgage that terrifies partner B or moving into a van which completely terrifies partner A, they create a custom milestone.
Like what?
Maybe their milestone is building a shared savings account, specifically designated for 3 months of international travel every 2 years. It satisfies the need for financial security and the need for adventure simultaneously.
That is brilliant. It's about creating personalized celebrations for the things that actually matter to the two of you. You don't have to throw a massive $10,000 party to prove you are committed.
No, not at all.
Your celebration could be starting a memory journal, or taking a quiet weekend trip into the woods, or simply writing handwritten letters to each other, acknowledging a major hurdle you just crossed.
And when you distill all of this down, the ultimate takeaway from this deep dive is that the most resilient partnerships are not defined by their velocity.
Right.
They aren't validated by social approval or the volume of likes on a digital announcement. They are sustained by profound mutual understanding, early transparency, and a relentless commitment to respecting each other's emotional pace.
Yes.
But this raises an important question. We've talked extensively about drawing this custom map today. But if we accept that individuals are constantly growing, changing careers, shifting perspectives, and just generally evolving over decades,
Wait, you never actually finished the map, do you?
that's the provocation.
Yeah.
We talk about the map as if it's a final product to be completed and laminated, but if healthy relationships require continuous adjustment, perhaps the map never gets finished. Perhaps the daily, active, sometimes messy process of drawing, erasing, negotiating, and redrawing that map together is the actual relationship itself.
The map isn't the destination. The act of drawing it together is the entire point.
Exactly.
That completely reframes how we look at compromise. It's not a roadblock, it's just the next draft of the map. I love that.
It's a beautiful way to see it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the 2026 relationship landscape. To you listening, we know your attention is pulled in 1,000 directions, and we deeply appreciate you spending your time with us today.
Yes, thank you.
Keep prioritizing transparency, keep celebrating those boss-level victories, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.